Welcome back, everybody. Day 12 of the 30-Day Design Your Life series. Today I want to talk about reprogramming your subconscious mind. Okay, your subconscious mind is the program that's either pushing you forward or holding you back. Okay, it's pulling you forward or holding you back. We need to be pulled forward by intrinsic motivation, because when we try to push ourselves, it doesn't tend to work. And so often, okay, we are pushing ourselves and it feels like we're going uphill all the time, or we're swimming against the current all the time. And a lot of the time, I said time a lot there, but a lot of the time what's happening and why it feels like that is because consciously we're trying to make these new behavioral changes. We're trying to reprogram our words, but subconsciously our patterns, our programming is actually not in alignment with our new conscious thoughts. So often we'll be swimming against the current, we'll be going uphill, going, with a lot of resistance against us, because internally, subconsciously, it's not in alignment with our new thinking. Okay, and this is why we have to really look at our identity. I like to talk about your subconscious mind can also be really your identity of how you see yourself. And there's a great book written in 1960 called Psycho-Cybernetics. I've mentioned this many times. One of my favorite books of all time is written by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, who was a plastic surgeon in the 50s and 60s. And he talked about the subconscious mind, the theater of the mind, how people saw themselves. And often he made corrective surgery, but the person still didn't feel different, because it wasn't the scar or the physical issue. It was actually in the theater of the mind, how they saw themselves. So your subconscious mind is actually the underlying, the program is running behind the scenes. Okay, so consciously you might be thinking, yes, positive energy, and I want this, and good things, and love, and light, and joy. But maybe you have patterns of old behavior, old belief systems that are running, okay, through your subconscious. This is the subconscious programming. And oftentimes we make conscious decisions, or we think conscious thoughts, and we're wondering why we're not moving in that direction, or why it feels so cumbersome. And it's because it's not congruent with really what we believe about ourselves. So we want to reprogram our subconscious mind for the future version of ourselves, okay? This is why creating a vision of ourselves in the future, this new way of living, whether it's new health, new energy, new fitness, new relationships, all of these things that are a better version of ourselves. When we do a gap analysis of where we are and where we want to be, that gap analysis, when we think of that future version of ourselves, it's important to start reprogramming the subconscious mind that future version of ourselves is already a reality. The reason we feel sometimes so distant from where we want to go is because it's not congruent with our inner patterns of thoughts, our inner patterns of emotions. And these are reprogrammed every time you speak the words of why it won't work for you, why you struggle, whatever it is, your health, fitness, business, finances, relationships. All the times you tell yourselves things over and over again, you are deepening that groove. And it's like, I use an example on a call I was a guest speaker on during the week, and I heard it somewhere, I can't remember where I heard it, but it's like a hill covered in snow. If you can imagine a big hill covered in snow, and you go down that hill on a sled. Think of what happens when you repeat that over and over again. A groove is going to start to come into the snow. That means after you've gone down 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, that groove is getting deeper and deeper, which means that sled is automatically going to go down the snow in the same way. And it's very difficult to get out of that groove, because you've ingrained that groove, because you've gone down the hill in that sled so many times the same way. That's the same thing with our subconscious programming. Once we tell ourselves certain stories over and over and over again, we're deepening that groove. And it's very difficult to shift our thoughts, to shift our beliefs into different patterns, because we've literally locked them in because we've repeated them so often. So the stories we are telling ourselves, the subconscious, the theater of the mind, the movie we play in our mind every day about who we are, the type of person we are, the type of life we live, the type of people we attract, the type of situations we attract. The more you tell yourself certain stories, the more you condition yourself to behave in ways that are in alignment with those stories. So for example, if you say, I'm not a runner, and then you make a decision, you start watching stuff on YouTube about running, you say, I want to run a race, a 10K, I want to run a half marathon. But then you struggle to train. It's because you've for years and years you've told yourself, I'm not a runner, or I struggle with running, or my body can't take the impact on the road. Whatever you've told yourself for years and years and years, that's always going to come back up until you change that identity, until you change that story of who you are around that activity. So until you start to say, well, I am a runner. Because a lot of times people, I read this in the book Atomic Habits, it was by James Clear, a great book on habits. And he talks about, people set a target or a goal of running a race, and then they train for months, then they run the race, and then what happens after that? They don't run for months because their identity was not as a runner. They just had a goal, I want to run that race. Or people say, I want to lose weight. So they train and eat well to lose weight for a wedding. Then they have the wedding or the party or the vacation, and then suddenly the weight comes back on. Because their identity, their story about themselves, their subconscious programming doesn't say, I'm a healthy person. It doesn't say, I'm a fit person who exercises regularly. Okay, so you set a goal, you work towards that goal in isolation, but your identity hasn't shifted. Your subconscious pattern, that story hasn't shifted. So to reprogram the subconscious mind, you want to start telling new stories. And where do those stories come from? They come from that future version of yourself we talked about. When you do that gap analysis, what does this future version of you look like? How do they walk? How do they talk? How do they carry themselves? What kind of daily behaviors do they have? Not what singular goals do you have? What patterns of behavior, of emotions, of thinking, what type of identity are you creating? And that's why you want to get really clear on your vision of the life you want to live and the person you want to become. And then it's very easy to start programming patterns that are in alignment with that version of you. That's the goal. That's the goal. The goal is to change the identity, to reprogram that subconscious story, those grooves in the snow, to recreate new patterns of thinking, new patterns of behaving. It's only when we do that we can have long-lasting, long-term behavioral change. So if you want to be someone who works out regularly, your identity has to be, I'm just someone who works out. That's just who I am. I'm somebody who works out. That's your identity. Or people talk about saving money. It's not more money you want. It's good financial habits you want. Because when you have good financial habits, you automatically have more money. Okay, it's just the way it is. When you train and you run regularly and you exercise regularly, you automatically have better health, better fitness, better energy. So when you actually start to change the behavior and the identity, what's going to happen is the results come automatically. So just like the money, when you have better financial habits, you have more money. Okay, when you have better eating habits, lifestyle habits, you have better health, better energy, better fitness. When you have better, how you think, how you act, how you feel, your self-awareness, you have more personal development, everything in your life changes. So don't necessarily work on a singular goal. Work on the processes, work on the systems, okay? Work on the daily patterns of behavior. And again, you have to look inside. You can't change the outside. You got to look into your patterns of thinking, and that's what your subconscious mind is. And the good news for you guys is, yes, the subconscious has been programmed over years and years and years, but maybe because you weren't aware. But by just watching this video today, you are now more aware than you were yesterday, the day before, a month ago, a year ago, which means now you can start to reprogram. So we're very lucky that our brains, okay, we have something called neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. And neurogenesis, we can create new elements in our brain, okay? We can create new connections. And that's what neuroplasticity is, the ability to reshape your brain, to create new connections. We don't have to stay the same way. We don't have to stick with the same grooves in the snow. We can create new patterns of thinking. And this has been proven, okay? Neurogenesis and neuroplasticity, and there's so much content online, there's so many books you can buy and read about neurogenesis and neuroplasticity, and a lot of our lifestyle habits will change that. Things you eat that support neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, lifestyle habits like exercise, like how you sleep, and the people you're around, your environment, all of that affects neurogenesis and neuroplasticity, okay? So you want to keep the brain young. This is important. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 50, 60, 70. You can still actually reshape that brain, create new neural connections, and start to reprogram those old patterns. You just have to have the desire to do it. You just have to have the want. And most people stop, or their wanting power comes down. They give up on what they think is already past. They think it's already too late. Again, that's just a story you're telling yourself. It's actually bullshit. God bless you. Okay, it's just a story. It's not real. You can change your thinking, you can change your habits. There's people who have smoked for 40 years who just stop. There's people who eat sugar and crappy foods every day and then they just stop because they get a reason to. They get a shock, they get a decision, someone is unhealthy and someone gets very sick or someone dies, or through this pandemic right now, how many people are making new improved habits because they see people with lung issues, people who are smoking higher at risk, and say, I don't want to be higher at risk, so maybe they quit smoking, maybe they work out more. Guys, all of this comes back to the stories you're telling yourself, all the programming you have for yourself to create different results in your life. To change the outer world you live in, you first have to change the inner world. Okay, and your brain will go along with you, but you have to make that decision. You have to take that decision to make those changes in your brain. Okay, you want new energy, you want new patterns of thinking, and you're in control of all that. You have to take responsibility. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's just going to come in and knight you on the shoulders and say, here's some new ways of thinking, new ways of feeling. It's a process, it's a journey. But when you start, just start. Don't even make a decision to start, just start. Okay, a lot of times we make this decision, we put it as this big thing, and then again, that's overwhelming. It's not congruent with who we are, and therefore we don't do it. So just start on any level, take action. Because I've realized, I've learned that as well. When we put something as like a big deal out there, we're going to start this tomorrow, we're going to start this eating healthy, we're going to start saving money. It becomes this thing. It becomes this big thing. And because it's not congruent with our subconscious, our programming, our theater of our mind, we don't stick with it. So we just want to do the behavior, because once the behavior changes, then the belief changes. But too often people want to change the beliefs first. And it's very difficult to change the beliefs first, to impact the behavior to change, because you're working on the beliefs that's conscious, but the subconscious is deeper, it takes longer. And that's why most people, they never get their behavior to change, because they don't have the stamina or the resourcefulness to keep going until the beliefs change. So here's a secret: change the behaviors first. Change the behaviors first, and then you'll start to see yourself eating healthier, working out, better financial habits, better relation habits, and then you'll see, but just by that happening, now you'll say, I am someone with better habits. I am someone with better financial habits. I am someone with better lifestyle habits. I am someone who works out a lot. You'll start to see that the behavior actually dictates the belief, instead of trying to use the beliefs to dictate the behavior. So I know there's a lot in that, guys. I packed a lot in there. I'm trying to just kind of give you an overview of such a deep subject. But if you have any questions, hit me up. If this makes sense, write it in the comments. Write that it makes sense for you. And tell me, are you going to reprogram the brain? Okay, are you down? Are you up for the challenge of reprogramming the brain? Are you ready to start creating some new connections? Are you ready to start learning new things, to keep that neuroplasticity up? Are you ready to reprogram the mind, to your mind? Are you ready to create some new grooves? And let me know in the comments if you are, guys, okay? So I hope you're getting value from these videos every single day. We are putting stuff out. We have, I don't know how many more days, 15, 16 days left of this series. I'm excited. I'm loving it right now. I'm getting great feedback from you. So also, if you've missed the previous videos, they're all on the YouTube channel. I've finally set up a YouTube channel. Everything is in one place. And maybe you're watching this on YouTube now. If you are, I hope you get some value. So that's it, guys. That's my message for today. I hope you took it in. Maybe you need to watch it back, because there's a lot in that. So maybe you need to watch it back again a second time. But I hope you get some value. I'm about to go for a run now, because running is what I do. That's my identity. I run now, apparently. So we all have these things in our life we want to change, we want to work. We got to change our patterns of thinking so we can reprogram that subconscious. We can change the grooves. So we got to change the behaviors. Okay, let's change the behaviors and let's make new grooves in our lives so that we can get to new directions, and we can reduce this gap analysis from where we are to where we want to be, and we can match ourselves. Because I believe at the end of the day, guys, when we do leave this earth, they say that would be that could be a big moment for us, when we meet the person we could have become. Okay, after we pass on from this life, what happens if we meet that person that we could have become? What if Aiden gets to meet the guys? This is the Aiden you could have been. And my goal, I've heard this from a few other people as well, and it's my goal now. I've taken this goal on that I've heard from other people. It's to be as close to that version of me as possible. Okay, so do you want to be as close to that version of you as possible? That's the question. So think about that. When you get to heaven or whatever you believe in or wherever you go after you die, you're going to be reincarnated, maybe whatever it is that you believe in. When that happens, when that transition is happening and you meet that version of you that you could have been, that if you had reached your goals, if you had kept going, if you hadn't given up, if you had dreamt bigger, if you had just went for it, if you had said yes to life and you went for it, you know, what could you be capable of? And how close did you get there in this life? So I want you to think about that. It's quite a profound, it changes the way you think a little bit, because you think, I don't want to meet that version of myself and say, wow, I could have been that and I didn't because I was lazy or I didn't try or I didn't at least attempt it. Okay, so think about that. Hope you guys got some value. I got to go for a run, get this body moving because this quarantine, we're eating too much, this lockdown here. So I got to go and get some activity. Also, my 100 reps a day challenge. We're doing core, doing about 150 to 200 now since the first couple of days because we were doing it so often. And there's a lot of people joining in that challenge. 30 post-its up on the wall, 1 to 30. And each day, take off the post-it when you do 100 reps. So if you want to join that, let me know as well. And send me a picture of your wall with your post-its. That's it, guys. I got to go run. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.